Brian Johnston with Behind the Badge Foundation. Welcome back to this week's installment of the Law Enforcement Family Network Flashlight Series. You know, law enforcement and shift work go hand in hand, and shift work takes an immense toll on people, from your thought processes to your reaction time and even your attitude. Some of the most leading research occurs here in Washington State. Today we'll be hearing from Dr. Stephen James from the Washington State University School of Nursing Sleep Research Center.
I'm Stephen James. I'm faculty at Washington State University's College of Nursing and core faculty in our Sleep and Performance Research Center. Prior to becoming an academic, I spent more than 2 decades in the British military as an infantry soldier and officer, completing 9 tours. So although I've never been a police officer, I understand what it's like to work long hours in dangerous conditions. My team tries to examine how to maintain safety and performance for the military, law enforcement, nurses, and elite athletes. We do this using simulation technology and other measurement devices, use of force simulators, driving simulators, for example. But why do we focus on fatigue? Well, a fatigued brain in many aspects is the same as a drunk brain. And being awake for 17 to 19 hours has the same impact on many tasks and many behaviors as blowing a .05. Being awake for 24 hours, a .10. This isn't 24 hours on the job, this is just 24 hours awake. We wouldn't tolerate our colleagues coming to work drunk, so why do we tolerate it in ourselves and others when we're impaired due to fatigue? Drowsy driving is dangerous, and collisions are one of the leading causes of fatality for law enforcement. 41% of the driving public have fallen asleep while driving, and 4% say they did so the same month that we asked them the question. 89% of police officers believe that drowsy driving is as dangerous as drunk driving, and rightfully so. Yet 50% of police have fallen asleep at the wheel of their vehicle. 25% say they do so 1 or 2 times a month. Now, we all know that long hours, especially working night shift, is dangerous. It's fatiguing. It's difficult. What we may not know is that the risk increases shift after shift, and hour after hour. Once we get to hour 10, 11, 12 of our shift, and if we're held over for even longer, the risk keeps going up. So be mindful of what activities you're taking on, how long your commute is, and how busy the road is you have to drive home on, if you've had a long hour, especially for graveyard shift officers. Now, typically this is where I pull out spreadsheets and pretty complicated diagrams showing you how your circadian rhythms interact with time of day and wakefulness and so on. But there's a really simple heuristic we can use, and that is if you think about the amount of sleep you got last night, for example 6 hours, and you add that to the amount of sleep you got the night before, you have 13 good hours of performance from the moment you wake up. That's not 13 hours on shift, that's 13 hours from the moment you wake up. We all need sleep. Somewhere between 6.5 and 8.5 hours, we all are in there somewhere. Naps count, it's total sleep, and if you're an athlete, you require more sleep. If you're getting less and thinking you're okay, you're just performing at about 70–80% of your aptitude. We have these natural circadian highs and lows that we need to be mindful of. Between 2 and 4 a.m. and 2 and 4 p.m. are circadian lows. We're a possible nap during these times, but certainly don't plan anything that is either dangerous or mission critical during these times. Our peak performance times are around 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. in the evening. If you can't get good quantity of sleep, try and maintain a regular sleep nap routine, the body likes routine. Try and use light exposure, especially this far north in the state of Washington. Try and limit exposure to bright, high-intensity lights 30 minutes before going to bed. But get high-intensity light exposure 30 minutes upon waking, for 30 minutes. You can purchase a seasonal affected disorder light box. You don't have to stare into it, you just have it on your counter when you're having breakfast, for example. And try and keep your body temperature low when you are trying to sleep. We recommend that establishing a routine is key, that you monitor your sleep debt. And what I mean by that, if you're normally an 8-hour a night person and tonight you only get 7 hours, be mindful of that 1 hour you missed. And we typically make it up at a 2-to-1 ratio. So you don't have to pay back that whole hour, maybe only 30 minutes, 45. Try and limit technology before bedtime, not only for that high intensity light on a smartphone or a tablet, but also because it gets you cognitively engaged and you're trying to wind down and switch off. And do leave sufficient time to wind down after shift before trying to sleep. Try and limit your alcohol and tobacco before bed. At low levels, alcohol is a stimulant. Now we all know if you've had 1 or 2 drinks, maybe 3 or 4, you get sleepy. We can sometimes think I'll just have 1 or 2 drinks to help me get to sleep. But the problem is alcohol will not allow you to stay asleep, because once it starts to dissipate and wear off in the body, it starts becoming a stimulant again, which is why we often wake earlier than anticipated or intended if we've had 1 or 2 drinks. Caffeine is still one of the best supplements we know for maintaining alertness, but use it strategically. Understand it has about a 4-hour half-life, so take it before you need it. It takes about 40 minutes to metabolize through a cup of coffee. If you know you struggle around 2, 3 a.m., take that coffee at 1 a.m. But stop drinking it a few hours prior to coming off shift to allow it to dissipate in your body so you can get that recovery sleep. Physical exercise is important. Staying fit will help you with your job and live a long life, but if you exercise directly before bed, immediately before you want to sleep, it can raise your core body temperature, and that can make it more difficult to sleep. Keep your bedroom dark and quiet. And try and get that light box for the morning, or get high intensity light during the winter hours wherever possible. Napping is a good strategy, especially for graveyard shift officers. And again, try and find a cool, dark, quiet environment. Use foam earplugs if you can't find a quiet space. Use a sleep mask if the lights are too bright. The ideal times to target your nap are between noon and 2 p.m. Avoid napping after 4 p.m. because that starts to eat into our nighttime sleep. And it's also difficult to get good quality sleep at this time because our circadian pressure to stay awake is too high. Naps extend our alertness, and we can bank that sleep prior to needing it. So if you know you're going to have an extended operation, try and nap prior to going on shift. It's easier to bank it, it's easier to prevent fatigue than to restore alertness after you've already become sleep deprived and fatigued. Longer naps are better, but if you go past 30-40 minutes, you risk running into delta sleep, which is the sleep our body craves. But waking from delta sleep, that slow wave sleep, you'll feel groggy and disoriented. Now, if you don't have to make a critical decision or perform immediately upon waking, then the longer naps are better. But just be mindful that going into 50, 60-minute naps, you may wake during delta sleep. Many law enforcement professionals have sleep disorders. 40% of officers have screened positive for some type of sleep disorder. Many of them have been undiagnosed by a physician, but in this study of almost 5,000 police officers, 40% screened positive. 36% had obstructive sleep apnea. This can be mitigated with the use of either a CPAP or a mandibular attachment to help open your jaw while sleeping. 6.5% have moderate to severe insomnia. 5.5% have a shift work disorder, but that really increases for graveyard shift. 14.5% of officers working the night shift have a shift work disorder. If you feel like you have any of these, try and get some screening. This first stage is a simple pen and paper screening, but you need to see a sleep physician, a board-certified sleep doc. Your family practice GP, physician, they have very little sleep medicine training. So do try and ask to see a real sleep physician and go for a sleep study. One of the key things is if you're allowing your body enough time to sleep and you feel like you're getting the quantity of sleep but you're not feeling refreshed, then that would be a good sign that you may have a sleep disorder and you have it looked at by a professional. I've seen in some of the police literature, various websites and magazines, of well-meaning police officers and supervisors that are talking about what they do to mitigate fatigue on the job. Chewing gum, talking to yourself, playing loud music, getting out of your car and walking around, or winding down your window and getting that blast of fresh air, or even stretching. All of these make you feel a little better, but they don't fix the problem. They don't restore alertness. And that you're just as dangerous to yourselves and others if you are, especially operating a motor vehicle, while fatigued. These don't fix the problem. It's just a placebo, just a band-aid over what's really going wrong. In this current climate, there are so many risks to law enforcement, whether officers being targeted, civil unrest, pandemics. There's so many risks out there that we cannot control. Your fatigue is something you have control over. And as our good friend from Lexi Paul Gordon Graham says, if it's predictable, it's preventable.
Hi everyone, Tracy here. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to see more videos on the Behind the Badge Foundation Law Enforcement Family Network Flashlight Series. You can also learn more about Behind the Badge Foundation on our website, Facebook, and Instagram pages at behindthebadgefoundation.org. Thank you for joining us and finding our together.